Hello everyone! In today's video we will be covering the dot plus cases from the speedsolving wiki, and these are the cases where you have your dot case but you also had some additional corners oriented. So the previous video just covered the ones where you just had the dot. This video will cover when you have the dot and an additional corner oriented. And there's four types of these cases. There's one where you have a single corner oriented and you'll either have two here and one here, or two here and one here. So they're basically the same, they're very similar. There's a left-hand, right-hand version, but we're not going to learn that. We're going to learn this one a little differently. And we've actually done this in our T1 case video. So if you've watched that video, you probably know already how to do this case. We'll go over that. We have a one where there's three diagonals in a row. It's the only one where you have a diagonal, so it's easy to recognize this one. And then you have your two Mickey Mouse cases, where you have your dot, and then you have two kind of Mickey Mouse ears here. And you either have a line in the front of you. If you put your Mickey Mouse ears in the back, then you'll either have a line here or you'll have a dot here. So, and these are very, very similar. And if you've been following the series, you probably know how to solve these. These are Sune derivations as well. So we will cover all four of these cases in this video. Let's get started. These cases are case number 3 and 4 from the speedsolving wiki. And these are easy to recognize because you have a dot and you have a single corner oriented, and they're the only cases that have that. But there's a left-hand, right-hand version where you'll have two next to each other and then a dot on this side, or you'll have two next to each other and then a dot on this side. So if you place them in the same orientation, you'll either have a bar here or a dot here and a bar back here. So if you see, there's a bar there. And we're basically going to do one thing for both of these. We're going to do a fat T1 case and then a skinny T1 case with a U-move in between. And what I mean by that is we're going to orient the corner piece on the right-hand side of the cube. So in this case we would orient it here, and on this we're orienting it here. And we're also going to place your bar on that same right-hand side. So in this case that is incorrect because here's our corner, but then our bar's back here, so it's that all three of these pieces need to be on the right-hand side of the cube. So for the right-hand version, or this version, here's your corner piece and here's your bar. And then for this one, here's your corner piece and here's your bar. And you'll notice that when you set it up like that, your corner piece on this one is on the lower side and on this one is on the back side. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look at where this is, and we're going to perform a U-move, and we'll do a T1, perform a U-move, and then do another T1. And the U-move determines, the direction of the U-move is determined upon where this is sitting. So we're basically going to move it to the other right-hand position. So the first thing we're going to do is a fat T1 case, and the fat T1 case is where you do a, so the T1 case is you perform an F move, you perform a sexy move on this corner, and then undo your sexy move. And the fat version of that is you just perform these two layers. So you pull both those layers down, perform a sexy move on this pair, and then undo your fat move. Well, that's the fat T1 case. So no matter what, we're going to do a fat T1 case. So we'll do a fat T1 case. And then you'll notice that that gave us a skinny T1 case. And what we have to rotate the U face. And you can tell which direction we're going to have to rotate it is if we need to put this on the other corner on the right hand side. So we're going to have to rotate the U face as a U prime to put it there. So we're going to do our fat move, and then we're going to have to do one of those, so a U prime. In this scenario, we would have to do a U because we're moving it to the other corner on the right hand side. So we'll do a fat and then a U and then a skinny, and this one we'll do a fat and a U prime and a skinny. So here's our bar, we'll do a fat and a U prime and then a skinny. Solves that case. And then on this one you still do a fat T1 case, and then now you have your skinny T1 case, but you have to do a U move because the corner piece was here and it needs to go here, so that's a U move. So we'll do a fat and then a U move and then a skinny, and that's how you solve that case. So one more time, we're going to do a fat move and then a U prime or a U, depends on where your corner was, and then another skinny T1 case. So we'll place our bar and our oriented edge or oriented corner on the right side. We'll do a fat T1 case, move your U face in the direction that you need to, and do a skinny T1. So you know that the skinny T1's coming, you just need to know which way to move the top face. And that's how you solve those cases. And how you would execute this is you regrip, and then you're going to do your fat version, and then you would either push here or pull here, depends on what direction you need to go. And that way your hand's just sitting here ready for your second T. Pretty basic. So we have this one, where we're going to do a U prime in the middle of it. The next case we're going to cover is this case, and this is case number 17 from the Speed Sewing Wiki, and it's a symmetrical case, and you only have to learn one version of this alg. And here's a dot, and you'll have your diagonal. So it's easy. It's the only one with the diagonal all the way across. There's no other OLL case like this, so it's easy to recognize. And you will always have, if you look at two of your faces, you'll have two dots on this side, and then two bars on this side. So it kind of looks like an arrow pointing. So you'll have two bars here, and then a dot here. So you can tell what this case is just by looking at the top, and then you can tell how you need to orient it based on, so you'll have two dots on two sides and then two bars on two adjacent sides. And we're going to orient the case, so the arrow, so I'm assuming, or I'm denoting that these two bars here are part of the arrow tip going that direction. So we're going to take our two single dots and we're going to orient it like this. And we're going to start doing stuff with this pair. So this is incorrect. So we're still lining it up as a diagonal, but then your two bars are facing you and they need to be facing away from you. So you would point it like in that direction. And we're going to start doing stuff with this pair here. And you can convert this to the left-hand version of the alg or the back version of the alg, but this is what we're doing. You know, for this video, we're going to start with this pair in this direction, going that way. And what we're going to do is we're going to just take this out and put it in the back left slot, like a Sune. So we're going to take it out and move it over. And then we're going to sledgehammer this pair. And then we're going to insert this with a sledgehammer, so we have to U2, and then insert with the sledgehammer. So again, we're going to take it out and put it in the back. But if you know, that is the first part of a Sune, so you take it out and put it in the back. This should be one kind of fluid movement. And then here's a sledgehammer on this pair. And then we're going to reinsert this with the sledgehammer. So you'll U2, so you can reinsert, and then reinsert. One more time, we'll take this out, pull it over, sledgehammer, U2, sledgehammer. Take it out, pull over, sledgehammer, U2, sledgehammer. That's how you solve that case. And what it looks like on the cube, you want to point your arrow away from you. And then we're going to start with this case. Take it out, pull it over, perform a sledgehammer, and then you'll see your square, U2, sledgehammer. That solves that case. And how you would execute this one is you have to think of this as a kind of a subset of moves. So the first part that I always think of is the taking it out and then sledgehammering. So when you do that, we're going to take it out like we do as Sune. So we're going to lift up and we're going to push out, lower, and then click here to put it in the back. And then our finger's right here, so we're going to sledgehammer with our middle finger. So that's like the first subset of moves. And then you U2, and your finger's right here, and then you do your second sledgehammer. So when you're doing this, if you want to get kind of decently quick at it, you have to get that middle finger sledgehammer kind of down in order to really get it. And I suggest starting to practice, when you practice these, break them up into a subset of moves that you normally want to do. So instead of thinking of it, take it out, move it over, sledgehammer, U2, sledgehammer. So instead of thinking about it like that, you take it out in one movement, and then you can even start adding to that movement. So you can say, okay, my first set of moves for this case is take it out, sledgehammer. So that's the first set. And then my second set is U2, sledgehammer. So then practice a U2 sledgehammer over and over again until you get it, you know. And then you just add those two subsets of moves together, and that'll solve your case. So for this one, how you execute it, you orient it like that, face the arrow away from you, and then you push it out, move it over, sledgehammer, U2, sledgehammer. So we're pushing here, we're going to pull here, we're going to sledgehammer here, thumb up, and then U2 here, and then sledgehammer here. And at speed, orient it like that. The next case we're going to cover is case number 18 from the speed solving wiki, and that's where you have your Mickey Mouse case and you have a line all the way across. And there's two ways to solve this case. The first way is actually the exact inverse of what we just did. So what we just did was we took it out, moved it over, sledgehammered, inserted it with a sledgehammer. Well, to solve this case, a way to solve it is to hedge slammer, to take out a pair, put it in the back, hedge slammer again, and then reinsert your pair. And that will actually solve this case. So it's just the inverse of what we just did. So again, we'll hedge slammer to take it out. So in this scenario, we'll orient it so the Mickey Mouse ears are away from you and your bar is facing you. So we will hedge slammer, put it in the back, hedge slammer, and then reinsert your pair like you normally would, and that solves your case. So it's just the inverse of the previous case. So if you learn that one thing, then you can really solve both of these cases. So that's the first way to solve that case. The second way we're going to solve this case is we're just going to do two fat Sunes to solve this case, and how we're going to do that is we're going to, and for those of you who don't know, a Sune is when you take a pair out, move it over to the back left slot, and then insert it with a U2. So in order to do that, you need to lift this pair out, insert, and then lower. And I cover both of these cases, all the Sune derivations in a Sune video. I'll leave a link in the description. But basically a fat version is when you're taking this entire block out. So you look at this block. So instead of taking a single pair out, we're going to take a fat. We're going to lift both layers up, take the block out and lower, put it in the back, and then reinsert with the two. So that's a fat anti-Sune or a fat Sune. And we're going to perform two fat Sunes to solve this case. And the pieces that we're going to perform the Sunes on are we're first going to do it on the front right slot, and then we're going to do it on the back right slot. So we orient it like this, where your Mickey Mouse ears are away from you. Here's your dot, and then here's your bar. So either way, you want to put the bar facing you. And then we're going to do a fat Sune. So you lift that block up, move it over, and then insert it with the two. We're going to do a fat Sune here. And then you'll notice that this gave you a regular back right Sune case. So we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to take this block out. And we're going to do that. So we're going to perform a fat Sune on this back right side. And that solves your case. And that's how I always solve this case. I think it's an easier way to remember it, an easier way to solve it. So basically what we're doing is we're going to do a front right fat Sune. And then you notice that this gave you a back right fat Sune. So we'll just do a back right fat Sune. And that solves that case. And then how you would execute this one is just like you would normally do your executions on your Sunes. So we're going to pull this block up. So we're doing a fat Sune on this one, so we're going to pull this block up, move it over, and then reinsert. So we're U2ing with the other hand. And then we know we're going to have to do when we go like this, we know we're going to have to do a fat Sune on the back right. So while we're here, we're just going to all the way over. So this one's doing a lot of this. So we'll pull it out, push it over, and then we're about to U2. And then we're going to R2. And that solves your case. And when I pull this first block out, I pull up and I put my thumb right here to hold this middle layer. So when I pull and then lower, this middle layer stays, because that's part of the fat Sune. You have to leave this middle layer staying. And then you pull over, and then you relift your slot up, and we're U2ing to reinsert our block here. Then we know we're going to have to do a back right, so we'll just do a tiny R2, pull that block out, and my fingers are right here holding this middle layer. And then that's how you execute that case. The last case we're going to cover is case number 19 from the Speed Solving Wiki, and this is where you have your Mickey Mouse ears, but instead of having a bar, you have a dot facing you. And how we're going to solve this one is very similar to the last one. We're going to do two Sunes, but instead of fat Sunes, we're going to do fat anti-Sunes. So what an anti-Sune is, we take this block out with a 2 move, or a 2U2 move, instead of a single U move. So normally anti-Sune is, the anti means you take this pair out with a U2 move. So you up, U2, and then you insert it with a regular. Well, a fat version of that is fat. Anti means you take it out with a 2 and insert it with a 1. So fat, anti, Sune. And then you can do that from the back as well. So fat, anti, Sune. And that will solve these cases. And we just need to know which ones we're actually solving on. So So we'll orient the case where you have your headlights or your Mickey Mouse ears facing away from you and your dot facing you. So it's the same as leaving the bar facing you, is just put your dot facing you. And instead of doing a front fat Sune, rear fat Sune, we're going to do a rear anti-fat Sune and a front anti-fat Sune. So we'll just do a fat version and we'll do them in the opposite order. So we'll do the back first and then the front. So we'll take and we're going to do this back right and the front right. So we'll take this out with a U2, so a fat anti-Sune, and then you can tell that gave us a regular fat anti-Sune from the front. So we'll front, fat, anti-Sune. We'll solve that case. So again, we have our Mickey Mouse ears. If you have a bar, it's a front and back with a fat. If it's a dot, it's a back then front with a fat anti. So here's our Mickey Mouse, here's our dot. We'll start from the back, fat, anti-Sune, and that gives us our regular front fat anti-Sune case. So we'll take this bar out with the U2, insert it with a single move, and that will solve that case. So the other way that we can solve this Mickey Mouse case with the single dot is if you perform a setup move, and then we take a pair out and insert it with a sledgehammer. And our setup move is going to be, we're going to take this edge piece out in the cross here, so we're going to M and then move it over. And it doesn't matter which way you move it over, but if you move it to the right, then you have to mess with this pair. If you move it to the left, you have to mess with this pair. So we're going to push it up, move out of the way. We're going to take this pair out. We're going to perform an M move to fix our cross, and then we're going to sledgehammer this one back in. And I still think it's a pretty easy way to solve the case. So if you don't like the fat anti-Sunes, this might be a little more comfortable for you, and I think you can get this pretty quick. I don't practice it a lot, but I believe that this can be very fast out. So that's why I'm mentioning it. So again, we will M, and then move it over, so U move in this case, and then we'll take this pair out, undo your M, and then sledgehammer that back in. And I think that's a pretty fast way to solve this case as well. So one more time, we'll M, and all we're doing is we're kicking this edge out, and then we'll take that pair out with just a regular sexy move. We'll perform an M, again, to fix our cross and our ring fingers right here, and then we'll just sledgehammer this pair back in. And how we orient it is the same orientation. So you have your Mickey Mouse case. So when you're solving your Mickey Mouse cases, you always want to put the ears in the back. And then you'll either have a bar or a dot, and no matter what, you put your ears in the back and then perform from the front. So how it looks like on the real cube, as you push up, move it over, we're going to take this pair out. Our finger's been sitting here, so we just push back, and then we'll sledgehammer this back into place. And that solves that case. And it's a fewer move count. I think it's a little easier to do, and it's a little more regripless friendly, and it's a little faster. So this is the one that I'll probably start using more. I just used the Sune version because it was the first one I learned. But again, we're going to pull it out, move it over, take that pair out, perform an M move, and then sledgehammer will solve that case as well. And how you would execute this one is if your ring finger is sitting right here, so you want to push up and then pull over your U face, and we're taking this pair out, so we're just going to push it out, lower it, and pull it back. And instead of doing an M and then sledgehammer, we're going to move our left hand to be in tune, and now we're a 2 off, so it's a sledgehammer, but it's an R2 sledgehammer. And the reason I do that is it just seems to flow a little nicer for me, so I do that to line the pair up, and then an F2 or an R2 sledgehammer. So again, we're going to push up here, move it over, push it out, fix it, and then we're going to move this left face to fix our cross on the bottom, and then now we're R2 sledgehammer away. So we R2 and then solve. So push up here, move it over, push it out, pull it back in. We're fixing our U face, so you can either do that or that. It does the same thing, and then you're an R2 sledgehammer away. And what that does is it allows you to put your finger on the top to kind of make the cube a little more stable. So one more time, we're going to push up here, pull that pair out, solve these 2 layers, and then now we're just at U2 away, so we put our finger here to hold, and then sledgehammer it back in. And that solves this case and this orientation. and your M version at speed. So when we're solving our last F2L pair, so we have all of our others solved, and then we have our last pair and we're about to insert it, you can always skip a dot case. You don't have to get a dot case. So if you notice that you have a pair here and then none of your edges are oriented, we don't really care about these, but you will look at your 4 edges. And if you notice that none of these are oriented, you can always not get a dot case. And you would do this because dot cases are typically slower than some of the other cases, so you want to kind of force some edge orientation to get a better case, a better OLL step. And how you do that is, instead of just inserting this pair like you normally would, because you notice you still have a dot case, if you sledgehammer this pair in, it will reorient some pieces and then you'll get a different case. In this case, it's a P case, so it's an easier case. If you notice that you have a pair and then a dot, so your last thing is paired up and you have a dot, don't insert it like this. Insert it with a sledgehammer and that'll orient some pieces. Also, if you notice that you have this easy insertion, so you have the different colors on top and it's just the regular 3-move insert, well, the same concept applies. If you notice that you're about to insert this last pair into your slot and you just have a dot case, instead of just inserting it like this, insert it a different way and you will reorient some edges. And the way that I normally reinsert this one, or alternatively insert this one, is if you place it back here and then you can pair it up, kick it in the slot and pull it in, and that orients some edges as well, and it gives you a better case. So again, if you have your easy case, so this is case 3 and 4 from the Speed Solving Wiki, and you notice you have a dot case, instead of just inserting it normal, well, you'll still get a dot case, you want to reinsert some edge, or reorient some edges, so you would orient it like this, pair it up, place it in the slot, and then reinsert. And that's just one of the basic insertions for this case, but all you're doing is forcing a couple edges to be flipped, changed around. So, and if that's not comfortable for you, if you have this case and you notice there's a dot, we'll just pair it up and don't insert it, just get it out of the way and then sledgehammer it in. So if you can't remember the other way, then now we have a lot oriented. So just something to keep in mind, you don't ever have to get a dot case, you can always avoid a dot case, so it's important to understand why that works. And you want to do that because dot cases are slower than some of the other cases, because most of the time a dot case is a combination of 2 or 3 of the other OL cases anyways. So if you can get another case, then it's probably a little bit faster. And that's it for the dot cases, or the dot plus cases. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. The next video that I'm going to do is actually going to be a summary of the series and some tips on how to get faster at your ALGs and how to learn ALGs a little better. And we'll also cover where the series or where the channel is going to go and what the next series I'm going to do is, and just some various thoughts that I had while I was creating this series. So look forward to that. Until then, happy cubing!